I will just, from my perspective, this is a very, very dangerous attack that tribal nations, indigenous peoples, indigenous nations, I heard Dove talking about some of the semantics, very meaningful semantics. And I didn't know that these terms were not allowed in court. But maybe that's a determination among the attorneys that are involved. But we're kind of in this situation where we're like an abused partner, right? There's being born Indian, being born indigenous means that you're born into a war, that you're born into a conflict, a juridical, legal, political, put legal in quotation marks, political and economic attack on our livelihoods, on our well-beings, on our right to govern ourselves, to live by our own accord, by our own natural laws, our own God-given laws, and to seek our own destiny. To be born Indian means that we're born in conflict with a colonial violence. What the court is doing here is a form of violence. The Indian wars have never ended, and not only is this court willing to put Brackeen on the docket to consider whether or not the Indian Child Welfare Act is unconstitutional, to consider whether it discriminates against non-Indians or favors Indians based on race, which is a very tricky distinction that not a lot of people think to make. Because when you think about indigenous people, you think about Indian people, you think about racial justice, you think about liberating from oppression, and you think about civil rights sometimes. And all of those, racial justice and civil rights are noble causes. They're things that people have lost their lives over. They're things that we've sacrificed our blood, sweat, and tears over. We've been targeted. We've been profiled. We've been oppressed. We've been the subject of the security state in this country. It's the reason why Leonard Peltier is still in prison, for instance. But civil rights and racial rights are the apex. They are the epitome of the rights of subjects, the rights of citizen subjects of a colonial empire invented by old Europeans some 240 years ago. If Indians, federal Indians, indigenous people, indigenous nations, if we set our ceiling at civil rights, then we are already dead. We've given our all to defend indigenous sovereignty, tribal sovereignty, and what the Supreme Court calls in Morton versus Moncari, distinct political entities. This means that we are not races. We are not classes within the framework of United States jurisprudence for which the apex of protection is civil rights. No, we are not that. We are the indigenous civilizations in this hemisphere, and we entered into treaties with the United States. So not only are we our own indigenous nations, or tribal nations, or tribes of Indians, as sometimes we have to call ourselves, but we are protectable, distinct political entities. We are not races. So we have a different framework of rights. So it's very, very dangerous what the Supreme Court is attempting to do right now. But indigenous sovereignty, the contours of indigenous sovereignty are not going to be determined in some courtroom. They're not going to be determined in the halls of Congress. They're going to be determined by those of us who are willing to defend those rights. So sometimes when the state, when the federal government or any state of the union comes to take an Indian kid in violation of its own laws, then sometimes we're going to have to fight back. And the fight that happens on the ground here in our actual lives as Native people will impact and color and inform the jurisprudence that's being developed in those ivory towers in Washington, D.C. So this court was willing to overturn Roe versus Wade. This court was willing to gut the EPA. This court is a bastion, is an expression of the last gasp of dying white supremacy. And we're able to see that more clearly, but we have to be able and willing to step in and defend these rights. Otherwise, they will take them. They are indicating that this is their line in the sand. They're willing to declare war right now. These Supreme Court justices are willing to declare war and cause this conflict inside of our country. And I just want to say about that much. I want to apologize for being late. This is amazing times that we're able to witness, that we're able to partake in, and that we're able to impact. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in, everybody for sharing this stream, everybody for doing what you do in whatever way you do that. Thank you very much.